If you want to become a true strategic leader, you not only need to think like one, you also need to communicate like one too, which is exactly what this video focuses on. I'm going to share 4 approaches that will shift your communication so that every time you speak, you sound more and more like a true strategic communicator. If you're new to this channel, I'm Kara. I've been a leadership coach for the past 12 years. I have best-selling Udemy courses. I have been awarded the LinkedIn Top Voice for the career space. I have given presentations at Geneva Business School. And on this channel, you will learn everything that you need to know to move from entry level up through to the C-suite. Okay, so when you want to communicate like a strategic leader, you need to set a clear goal for your communication. In other words, you need to communicate with purpose and with strategy rather than in a vague or a confused way, and hope that your message is just going to land with your audience in the way that you intended. Strategic communication shouldn't be a guessing game. It should be laser focused on the exact outcome that you want to achieve. For example, if you needed to communicate with your team that there was a fire in the building and they needed to immediately evacuate, you wouldn't beat around the bush telling them this. You wouldn't be vague about the instructions you give them. You'll be very clear, you'll be very direct, and you'll be very fast as well with your communication. You would tell them exactly what they need to know in the shortest time possible to get them moving. To focus your communication on the outcome or on the goal, you need to ask yourself, what do you want to achieve with your communication? In other words, what do you want the listener to do? And for leaders, the outcome that you want, it could be a number of things. For example, I want to stimulate deeper thoughts and explore new perspectives. I want people to follow this procedure step by step. I want people to feel comfortable sharing their ideas and their opinions. And for the goal that you identified, you would tailor your communication so that the exact message you want gets out as quickly as possible. This means clear, focused communication, the type that avoids vagueness or confusion. For the first goal, which is to stimulate deeper thoughts and explore new perspectives, you might want to use Socratic questioning. Now, this is a unique form of communication where you use questions to explore deeper topics, to explore new perspectives and different ways of thinking, to explore what you don't know. In business, it's really helpful to use in brainstorming sessions because that's when you're going to need to unlock people's thinking and help them to think deeper and differently about the topics that you're talking about. For a strategic leader, you would enter the brainstorming session with the intent of exploring new perspectives and of unlocking people's minds so they can think differently. So you would go in with some prepared questions to achieve this. For example, what are the potential drawbacks of this idea, or can you outline a scenario where this idea will be useful? For the second goal, which is to get people to follow a procedure step by step, you could use assertive communication, which is really helpful when you want to be clear and direct with your communication. For a strategic leader, you would enter the conversation or the communication opportunity with a clear message that you want people to walk away with. For example, there are 3 steps to this procedure. Step 1 is, step 2 is, step 3 is. This is clear, this is direct, it's straight to the point, and there's little room for misunderstanding or for confusion. For the third goal, which is where you want people to share their thoughts and opinions and perspectives, you could use empathetic communication. Now, this is a style of communication where you want that person to feel comfortable, relaxed, where you want them to open up so they feel okay sharing their thoughts and ideas and perspectives with you. So as a strategic leader, you would go into that communication opportunity with the intention of being curious and of being kind. You would not go in with the intention of being judgmental at all. For example, you're in a one-on-one meeting with an employee who has had a drop in their productivity lately, and you want to find out what is going on. So you'd go into that meeting in an approachable way, looking really nice, not aggressive at all, and you would say to that person, I've noticed that your productivity has dropped over the past couple of weeks. Is there a reason for that? Now, in some communication opportunities, it's really wise to develop a connection with your audience to make sure that your message gets to them in the smoothest way possible, basically with the least resistance possible. Because what do you think happens when your audience is resisting your communication or resisting your message? Well, they're not going to be open to hearing what you say. They're going to block whatever you try to tell them, and your message will never reach them. If your message is blocked, if it never reaches them, then it is very unlikely you will ever be able to influence and persuade those people, which is really one of the main goals for strategic communication. So what is the best way to connect with your audience? Well, sharing stories and experiences, particularly ones that your audience can relate to, is highly recommended. In this article that you see on the screen, the author shares a strategy for compiling a catalog of stories or anecdotes that you can use in your leadership leadership communication. And this is really helpful because I don't know about you, but thinking of stories from your own life, remembering what you have experienced and what you've been through can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So the author recommends that you think through nouns that have helped to shape your life. So people or places or things that have had an impact on your life in some way. And this could help you to remember stories or anecdotes that you can share with other people in your strategic communication. She then encourages you to write one-line summaries of your anecdotes, of the stories that you come up with, and to really highlight key words so that you can go back through and you can actually search for them based on mood, based on timing, based on places as well. These are basically keywords that you're going to need to use so that you can go back and search for stories when you need them. If it were me, I would be using Obsidian for this, but you can use whatever note-taking software that you find the best. And then when you need to use a story, when you have a communication opportunity coming up and you need to be strategic about it, then you go back through your catalog of stories and you look for one that matches the keyword or the emotion or the message that you want to convey to your audience. But sometimes, depending on the goal for your communication, stories won't be enough to influence or to persuade your audience. So as a strategic communicator, you might need to think of another method to use in order to achieve this. Let's say you are a doctor and you're trying to convince a patient to take their medication. Sharing a story might help them take their medication. It might influence and persuade them. But I think as a doctor, sharing your credibility, your authority, and your knowledge about what happens if they don't take their medication, it's going to be a lot more impactful to that person, right? This is exactly what Robert Cialdini in his book Influence talks about. He calls it the authority principle, and he states that people are hardwired to comply with the requests that come from an acknowledged person or an accepted source of authority. He goes on to say that we are strongly inclined to be deferential to people who are in positions of power or expertise, like doctors, like teachers, like lawyers, or leaders. This book, Influence by Robert Cialdini, gives a great insight to how influence works and how you can influence other people when you need to. I actually revisited this book using short form. I read the original book a while back, but I revisited using short form, which is a great way to read book summaries or book guides on books you have previously read. I know many of you have actually already signed up to short form, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. If you don't know what short form is and you want to check it out, then take a look at the description below. That link will give you 5 days free access to short form and 20% off the annual subscription fee. Now, going back to influence and how you can communicate like a strategic leader, well, what types of things can give you the power of influence? Your title can give you the power of influence, but only if you combine it with respect and you show respect for the people that you are trying to influence, because very quickly people will learn that you are trying to influence them through fear. If you don't respect them, you might be trying to influence them through fear. They will lose respect for you and they will not let you influence them in the future. Your clothes can also give you the power of influence. If you as a leader are dressed slightly more formally than other people in the group, then this can position you as a person who is more powerful, more knowledgeable, and more influential as well. And this can subconsciously encourage people to comply with the requests that you ask of them. Your accomplishments and credentials can also help you command influence, and receiving public acknowledgements from senior leaders in your company can convince others to let you influence them. Once your audience is open to you influencing them, then you can continue on with your clear, focused, strategic communication, and you can tell them the exact message that you want them to walk away with. By the way, at the beginning of this video, I used influence as a way for you to listen and to watch this entire video. And if you are watching this far, then I think we can safely say that this strategy, it does work. Influence is a deep topic that I highly encourage you to learn more about, either via short form, via the book Influence, or you can also check it out in my online course called Business Etiquette 101 Social Skills for Success. In that course, I talk about something called the know, like, and trust. And when you develop this concept, know, like, and trust with other people that you work with, other people in business, then this will enable you to influence them more. So if you want to check out this course, then I will put a link in the description below for you. Being able to strategically communicate your message in a clear way can be a little bit challenging, especially if that message or that concept you're talking about is a complicated concept. So there is a technique for you to explain complicated concepts clearly to other people, and I talk about it in this video up here, which you should definitely watch next. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week in another video.